What's up, guys? It's the real main event, the Rogue Soldier, the essential John L. Crossfire.
And I'm Mrs Crossfire.
And once again, you guys are tuned into Caught
in Conversation. Shakalaka-laka.
What is up, guys, and welcome to episode 91 of Caught in Conversation. As always, I am your host, the essential John L. Crossfire, riding solo today for this intro, unless, of course, Mrs. Crossfire walks into the room in the next couple of seconds. But you'll actually hear her on the tail end of this episode yelling out some just random shit, because, of course, her and Jackson Thornhill know each other very well, as I was living with Jackson Thornhill back in the day when I first met Mrs. Crossfire when she came to stay with us. But yeah, today I'm talking to Jackson Thornhill, as I just said, derp, and you'll see it on the thumbnail and the description. He's currently the ICW heavyweight champion in Canberra, and I could not be any prouder of where he's come from, because I was there from his first day of training. I was there for his first match. Technically, I was there for his first match 2 times over, both under and out of a mask, which we'll get into. Don't want to be too long-winded on this intro, because we talked for almost 2 hours. This episode will probably end up being 2 hours by the time the intro and outro are slapped together, and you'll look at it and go, ah! But the song of the week this week will be Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. Of course, the main reason I got Jackson on this podcast was to talk about his title defense coming up in a week's time, or 6 days' time if you're listening to it on the day it drops, because tomorrow is Sunday. I'm recording this on the Saturday. But yeah, he's defending his ICW Heavyweight Championship for the very first time. Hopefully not the last. He'll be facing someone we both know very well in Nick Maltino, and we'll talk about Nick Maltino a little bit here in this conversation. But again, the song of the week this week, Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. Absolute banger. Rock of Ages is a fucking awesome movie. If you haven't seen it for whatever reason, go watch it. And I really want to go see the musical live in person, but that's just me, because I'm such a manly man and I enjoy musicals. But the match of the week this week, it's going to be one we talk about very briefly in this conversation, but it features someone that we just dote over multiple times in this episode, and that is Will Ospreay, and he will be facing Chris Jericho from AEW All In 2023. That is your match of the week, Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho, AEW All In 2023. But with that being said, I'm going to jump straight into this conversation with Jackson Thornhill ahead of his title defense at Nothing But a Good Time. The ticket link will be in the description, as will MXW Mildy Kombat from March 2nd, and ICW Central West Emma Butler Memorial in October 26th. 5 days after my 30th birthday. I cannot wait to be there on commentary, do my thing. It's going to be awesome. Great wrestling for a great cause. But without further ado, here's your kiss from a rose. It's Jackson Thornhill. I am here with ICW Heavyweight Champion Jackson Thornhill, and as always, I just had a fuckload of technical difficulties, and I say fuckload because this podcast is marked as E for explicit, not E for everyone. I feel like in 2024, surely you can't get those confused. It's right there. You have to be signed in and yada, yada, yada. But we are here to promote a family-friendly show, but we'll get to that at the tail end of the episode. But we've had a little bit of banter back and forth before we start, as always, just because whatever, had to make sure the levels were fine, and yep, whatever. You just had internet problems, so that was like, oh shit, is this actually gonna even happen with like 10 minutes notice? But
the real part of the day.
We're here. I'm smashing my sandwiches. Mrs. Crossfire's eating food in the background, so if she just yells out random shit, just whatever. She's the co-host now. She's gonna get an ego now. She's gonna be like, I'm the real main event now.
She runs the new company.
It's not ego, just fact.
Yeah, buy the t-shirt. Cheap plug. It's actually the shirt that Jackson Thornhill wears when he wrestles, but he's worn it that much because he's such a mark for me that it's faded.
My favorite thing, I'll be honest.
I'm going to do the Eddie Guerrero parody tee, where it's like Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler, but it'll be John Crossfire is my favorite wrestler, and I'll get one just for Jackson Thornhill.
I'll be honest, I'd kind of like that. It's like a little picture frame. Just my favorite wrestler. It's just a picture of you.
But no, this pod, I think, being attached to me puts me over enough as it is, so we're going to go all the way back, and this is going to be fun for me, because I was there from the very beginning from you, and I've watched you grow into now this 10 times more talented than I'll ever be performer, so this is going to be a fun little time. But I often forget just how much older I am than you as well. I think it's 7 or 8 years, so it's not like a super big gap. But it's just
Yeah,
enough
exactly.
that when we start talking about wrestling that I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I think it really surprised people because I'm only 21. I missed the entire Attitude Era. Like, I have not watched like anything of it basically.
Well, that's one of those things, like, you and I have had conversations where you're like, I'll talk about a storyline, and you'll be like, you know the wrestlers that I'm talking about involved in the storyline, but you'll be like, I got nothing. Like,
The only storyline I really remember is Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio. The only one that matters.
see, that was
'Cause
like
that was,
peak
sorry.
ruthless aggression, though. Like, that's still one of the best storylines, like, ever. I don't even care.
I just love the gimmick of it. Fighting for custody of a child.
The ladder match, like that's an underrated ladder match. Like, it's not the greatest one of all time, but those dudes, they put more thought into the actual psychology of the story than the big ladder spots, which is, you know, storytelling. Fuck me, what's that in 2024?
Yeah.
But what was your earliest wrestling memory, young Jackson Thornhill?
I remember the first match that actually got me really into it. Can't remember the exact show, but it was a Adrian Neville versus Finn Balor match. And just watching the difference in styles, I was amazed.
So that would have been like
And then,
2014, 2015-ish?
yeah, it was real early NXT. Not like the game show NXT, because that was weird.
Yeah, but like
But
OG
yeah.
Black and Gold NXT.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck
Like,
yeah.
just watching some of those wrestlers was amazing. From the, was it Cesaro's now? Cassius Ono / Chris Hero, absolutely adore. But there's like so many different stars, and I got to watch William Regal wrestle during some of his last little stint, which is awesome to watch.
But that's a very underrated era when you think about like the wrestlers that are, especially on like the major indies today, like your wrestling revolvers and your Warrior Wrestlings and your Rev Pro and, you know, I'm going blank now because ADHD. I had like 100 hit me in the face at the same time that they all kind of just exploded. But like all the major US and to extend like the UK, well, before COVID mainly, but US and UK wrestlers, like they're really like the Chris Hero style is very much, you know, it revolutionized a lot of the way when you're.
Oh yeah, there's also a thing of like,
I totally know what I'm talking about.
looking back at some of those wrestlers and where they're at now, like Sami Zayn, Pac now, Chris Hero's still doing it on the indies. Claudio, who's now a huge name in AEW. It's amazing to look at, see where they've gone in like 10 years.
Is it like to think that like even what 2024 is recorded? So like, even 5 years ago, the thought of like even AEW wasn't even a thought, which is nuts. So like, yeah, as you say, to go back even further and look at the wrestlers that are now killing it. Like man, COVID really derailed Pac's career. I feel Adrian Neville. I feel like he was in such a big spot for you know AEW, and he was going to have that big feud with Hangman, and he was literally in the main event scene before they eventually crowned Chris Jericho as the first champion. It was like, dude, you could have had Pac versus Chris Jericho before he kind of started to let himself go, which hurts because I still love Jericho and he's still golden at what he does. But you know,
He's still an amazing performer, but when you look back at what he could do, you can see that he has fallen off. But
like the match that he just did with Takeshita, like I feel like that could have been a pay-per-view match, and then everyone was mad with like the finish with Don Callis, and I'm like, oh, breaking news, internet mad at things that heel does.
yeah, like I can understand to a point because I adored Takeshita. I loved his hard-hitting style. He has some of the best suplexes in the business. I can understand that they want him in the best spot, but at the same time, he's going to learn so much from Chris Jericho, like psychology-wise.
It doesn't matter who it is, but then even like it was really WWE central, but now AEW is starting to come in as well. Where if someone gets signed from the Indies, it's like they're watering this person down. It's like, or maybe you know, just maybe they're teaching them psychology and stories. And
Mercedes Monet, everyone's like, oh, they're a sellout. It's like, who cares?
Like, I feel like that tease almost has to be Mercedes, but at the same time, it could just be a swerve, and it could be Okada too, because it still makes sense for the money signs and everything. But we're gonna before we get too far off topic, because we will mark out a little bit towards the end with some of the questions. But so Adrian Neville, Finn Balor, from what point there does your fandom continue? Did you did you just stay on the WWE train, or like what point did you discover indies, and at what point was it before or after you're in the business that you actually discovered Australian wrestling?
So I stayed with NXT very loosely. I was on YouTube a bit because I was in school, so I couldn't fully watch it. Then I started moving to like Raw back when it was one of my favorite matches, Seth Rollins versus Neville.
So basically, Neville was just like your first favorite wrestler in a way.
Yeah, him and Finn Balor were definitely tied because they were the two that got me into the business. Then, sort of after, I sort of got into New Japan stuff, like around the Kenny Omega Okada era, which was very fun to watch.
Did you watch much of like Finn as Prince Devitt in New Japan like since then?
I actually haven't. I really want to because I want to steal some of his moves, but I haven't. Mark, I won't lie. Some of his moves are still amazing to look at today.
Because like obviously Finn, a lot of people don't realize, they seem to forget that he actually created the Bullet Club. And look at, it's not what it once was, but it's still loosely a thing and loosely relevant. Fucking, a decade later in its own right. Like that's crazy to me.
I still think the current Bullet Club is kind of underrated. Like with how many new talents they have in there, it's insane.
You see, well, I'm not, and I've been no bones about it. It's nothing personal. I'm not the biggest fan of Jay White specifically, but as a performer and as a leader for the Bullet Club, he has done, and I will give him that. Like he's done such a good job at this version of and it's just the US version of the Bullet Club. Obviously, they've still got some in New Japan, but like I feel like it's a very like House of Torture gets a lot of flack, but I feel like for what they're given, I feel like they're doing their job.
But I think the current like War Dogs in Bullet Club are absolutely
yes, I love the War Dogs. I've been checking out some of their stuff on YouTube as well because I don't have New Japan World at the moment because funds and stuff. One had to go, and New Japan unfortunately became one of them.
Lost that. But sort of after getting into New Japan a bit, I dabbled in the indies, starting like with PWG, where I found Trevor Lee. Trevor Lee is one of my current favorites because God can he wrestle. He's so much fun to watch.
Very underutilized currently as Cameron Grimes, but I do love the gimmick that he's. And again, he's evolved so much. People have said, "Oh, he's watered down this, that," but I feel like if he was to go anywhere now to where he got a shine on him, you'd 100% see like where the WWE footprints were on him in his performance.
Oh yeah, but like just seeing how much he's evolved from when he first started, it's night and day.
But at what? I was just going to transition to the next question, but if you want to keep ranting about Trevor Lee and that, like, by all means, this is your episode, dude. So this is going to go wherever you want it to go. Like, I've got the 5 core questions and then a bit of trash talk from opponents at the end, so we're good. Like,
but after PWG, I moved over to What Culture Wrestling and Progress Wrestling, which I still think two of the most underrated companies at their height.
Legit. So very recently over in TNA, they'd become TNA. I think it was just before they became TNA. I think it was at Final Resolution. Someone's going to correct me if I'm wrong, but as Simon Miller just faced Joe Hendry, and the whole thing was he still had the what? Excuse me, I just burped into the microphone, and I'm not even going to edit that out. Fucking sue me. He had the What Culture title, and it was Simon Miller versus, and because Simon Miller obviously still has the rights to What Culture. He's like, no, this is an official sanctioned What Culture title match in Impact Wrestling. And I was like, dude. And I went through and I actually showed, Nova Lee, Mrs Crossfire, Teak, whatever you want to call her on the show, as I've been calling her lately and as a gag on the show is, or you in the bushes, because she's just got that many gimmicks now that I keep getting confused. But, like, you bitch please me. She got more faces than Foley at this point. But, like what culture super underrated. Like that might even, depending on how this conversation goes, one of the What Culture matches might end up being the match of the week when I do the intro and outro after the fact. But yeah, at what point then did you discover Aussie wrestling? Was that before or after you started training? Because the next question's usually like, how did you get into the business and when did you decide you want to do it? But I know how you got in the business because I was there. So when did you decide that you wanted to do it? Because obviously you were a bit younger. You had to wait until you were 16, and then it changed to 18 because politics that we won't get into on the podcast. But, you started training in ACT. You ended up going up north to the company that I won't mention publicly. Fucking sue me. But I witnessed your first match technically twice because you did it under 2 separate gimmicks, and then your first match is Thornhill. Unfortunately, I didn't get to be there in person, but for a first match, considering you were there with Big James, who I love dearly, but both of you were super fucking green and should not have been in that position. But you both, you both, honestly, you made it work. And I've seen worse matches from people with triple, quadruple the amount of training. So it is what it is. But at what point did you decide that you wanted to give it a crack, Jackson?
So I discovered Aussie wrestling because of Will Ospreay. So I was watching him in New Japan, and I heard about him versus Robbie Eagles at PWA.
This is going.
1917. So I've started looking a lot into the Australian business a bit more. Flex, Adam Brooks, all those big names. And then I was in the best mind space in high school, so I had to see a therapist. And that therapist actually happened to know one of the wrestlers at ICW, CPW, whatever you want to call it today. And that's how I got into it in, I think, 2018, actually.
2018. I was there for you. I was still living in Canberra at the time when I was a bit younger, and I was gonna say more naive, but I'm still fairly naive because I'm just like, why can't we all just get along? But
yeah,
I remember seeing this kid, and you come over, and from day one you sat down, you shut up, and you listened, and she showed that you had more talent than all of us within the first 20 minutes.
Helped I did wrestle a bit beforehand. So I used to amateur wrestling for a bit.
Yes, yep. And that all helps.
Oh, yeah.
I believe, is that where you picked up your little thing on your arm that you've had issues with over the time?
Probably.
What is it, like a little cyst thing? I don't know the medical term.
Yeah.
Every now and then we'll lock up and I'll grab it and I'll be like, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Some of the people like to push you on it just to be a real ass. Cool.
And this is why when he actually wrestles, he tapes his wrists nice and heavily.
Oh, yeah. I keep my wrist safe.
Smart, man.
Big smart. Always blessed.
But was there like a certain like moment where like you were like, I could do this or I want to do this, or like a match, or was it just that the therapist was like, hey, have you thought about getting into it?
I think it was very much the therapist first getting into it. And I was like skeptical about it. Like, I always loved watching it, but it's never a thing of I want to be a wrestler. Like you watch Eddie Guerrero and you always thought you could do that sort of stuff. There's many wrestlers who think that way. I didn't. I thought I'd be like a referee or something. But it was working with Nick Martino.
Yep.
And
this is going to come full circle because your first title defense is going to be against Nick Martino coming up on Feb 17th. So please tell me this story.
Nice plug.
I'm a professional at this point.
But it was very much a thing of being like the new guy walking in, you don't know anyone, and Martino already been there for quite a while, is always very open book about what's happening. And be able to sort of train under some of those big names in ICW, as well as from out of state, like Jake Gibson, who absolutely helps me with wrestling. It was very much
you beat for that title. Again, everything's full circle, and it's fucking weird. Like, you can't write this shit. Like,
Derek Gibson, I love you. Sorry.
I personally want to see a rematch because, unfortunately, and even you weren't happy about it, but the match didn't end the cleanest, which is, Jake's not happy, you're not happy, but at the same time, there's only one way to solve this issue, and ICW, I'm sure, once you've defended against Mick Martino, I hope, we can revisit that, but...
I think me and him will put another good match on.
Absolutely.
It was just a thing of having so many inviting people who all taught me different styles, and then I could also bring in what I watched from online and try to adapt my own way. I found out that I loved the research element of wrestling and trying to pick apart what I could.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've always given you, and that's why I said, like, I talk about how you came in from the moment you come in, I joke about that, but you sat down, you shut up, you was kind of like, okay, cool. You opened your ears, and you've always had, something to study. And, some of your spots have been like, I want to do this. But I've always liked, because you're one of the very few, and I don't want to say rookies, because again, you've by the time I get back in the ring, you're going to be wrestling longer than I did in my first run. But like a lot of people see stuff in matches and they go, I'm going to do that. And every time you've sent me something or showed me something, you've always used this exact frame. You're like, I want to learn how to do this. And that to me, and people make, phrasing, whatever. But to me, words, it's all contextual, but words mean a lot. For you to see something, and go, I'm going to do that. Like it was for me, like seeing Edge spear Jeff Hardy at WrestleMania 17 was me going, I was like, I think I want to do that. But I didn't sit there and go, I could do that. Like, like no. And then, the Edge and Eddie Guerrero match was where I was like, no, I'm going to do this. Like, I want to be a wrestler. But it wasn't those specific spots of, I could do that or I'm going to do that. No, you've always said, I want to learn how to do that. And it's a very underrated quality. And I've said it to you, like, off air as well and in private. And I've always put you and now it's Zach Stryker who's coming through. And again, he's just fucking blown me away with how supremely talented. And I really hope that, his hernia surgery goes well when he eventually gets it. Because I want to see him back in the ring, even just from a fan perspective. But, it's the crop of rookies we've got. I mean, yeah, Bo Kennedy's got a big mouth, and we'll get into that at the end of the episode as we get closer to plugging the shows. But he's a good talent. You're all, I'd argue, the best crop of talent that ICW has had ever in terms of rookies, and that's just my opinion. It is what it is. But
it's something I pride very heavily about Australian wrestling, especially in the last 5 or so years, is rookies and sort of all new wrestlers are really trying to step the foot in and really put an effort. And it's something that's really put us on the map lately. Look at Buddy Matthews, Rhea Ripley, Robbie Eagles, all going overseas. And you have a bunch of new wrestlers like Zeke Endito, I think it is. I probably butchered that last name. Going over to Japan. And just all these wrestlers that you normally wouldn't hear of because they're just in Australia making huge waves overseas.
Yeah, well, someone pointed out the other day, it was kind of like a side-by-side. It was obviously, it's in Perth, not Adelaide, the Elimination Chamber, but it was a side-by-side of Rhea's last match in Australia in RCW in Adelaide, and it was like a side-by-side of the Elimination Chamber poster, which obviously as the current world women's champion in WWE, she focuses very heavily on the marketing and everything, and they're like, someone pointed out it had only been 6.5 years, and it was so weird, because on some levels it does actually feel longer, but at the same time you're like, wow, like it's been 6.5 years, like how has it been like that long already? And it's just so crazy to think that when you think about it, she was in NXT UK. She won the title. She eventually dropped it to Toni Storm, another great talent. She's technically New Zealand born and spent a lot of time in the UK, but Australia, well and truly, claimed her as one of her own because she lived here for such a long time. And, once she dropped the title to Toni, she took NXT Black and Gold by storm. And you don't realize that it was very quick after that she went to the main roster because she won the title. Charlotte Flair, obviously, during the COVID WrestleMania beat her for the title, and then that just set up, I think she had a rematch or something at some point, but it was very quickly after that she was called up to the main roster, and you're like, wow, like how is, she's been in, 3 WrestleManias now, like, and had one of the best matches of, I try not to get too caught up on star ratings and yada, 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 but a match with Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 39 last year, that was 100%, a 5-star match, and I think Meltzer gave it like a 4.855, whatever the fuck it was. Like at that point, Dave, just say it's fucking 5 stars. But like the fact that she's gone in 6.5 years, that's not that long. But in wrestling terms, it seems like forever, But it's
like the evolution. It's night and day when you look back at it. And to think it's just 6 years.
Like a lot of people over here, when they're talking about it, they almost like Todd Eastman, for example. He's never going to hear us because he's way bigger podcast than I do. But when he talks about Rhea, a lot of the times he calls her Demi just because he worked with her as a rookie. Like, he was there, like, from day one of her training, and he would say Demi, and I'd be like, shit, Rhea. But it's like, no, like, that's crazy to think that it's less than a decade, right? Like, that's crazy. Like,
and to see all the achievements she's done since then is mind-boggling.
But I think, the point I was trying to make is I don't want to talk over you too much because it's your interview, but you say, like, the rookies and stuff stepping up. I think the reality is, in this day and age, I don't want to pull the curtain back too much on a podcast, but when you're doing a podcast, it kind of does that by default. We all know what professional wrestling is, so I think you have no choice in this day and age but you need to step up. You need to, even for those that treat it as a hobby. Like if you only wrestle once a month or once every other month, and you don't want to be signed, and you just want to be a monthly warrior, or even amp it up to being a weekend warrior, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone has different goals, different aspirations, but at the end of the day, the newer generation are being told, you are the luckiest generation that's ever been. Like, could you imagine back in the day, Hulk Hogan? Like, Hulk's obviously very strong, social media presence now, but could you imagine Hulk Hogan being on social media back in the day? Like, with how big of a star he already was, he would have been even bigger, which is crazy to think in those times, or he would have been cancelled, like people complaining about Roman Reigns being shoved down their throat, or John Cena being shoved down their throat, be like, hashtag Hulkamania sucks. But like, in this day and age, you have social media, you have to use it, and more than else, you're representing not just yourself, but this is why I have separate character pages, and I hate using the term character, because again, I don't want to pull the page back, but this is why I have that separate John Crossfire page, because it's like, no, everything that goes on there, it's about marketing, and I'm going to commit, and sometimes maybe I've put a toe over the line with things I've said in character, and people go, hey, you can't say that, and it's like, oh, yeah, well, maybe I shouldn't, but at the same time, if you look at it through the scope of kayfabe, brother, it's taking it seriously, it's believing in yourself, investing in. If you invest in yourself, you should, by proxy, be investing in the business. And at the end of the day, whether it's a hobby or whether it's not, it is still a business, and it has to be treated as a business.
Exactly. I think wrestlers really do have it probably the easiest nowadays due to social media. I'm guilty of not using it enough. I'm very bad at social media, something I've been good at. But with how easy it is to find ways to connect to wrestlers nowadays, how to find different companies, different areas of work, social media is not used enough, I think. I think every wrestler should try to focus on social media, at least like multiple times a week. It is such an important tool for wrestling, I swear.
Something that promotions specifically, like I feel like every wrestler, and you're one that has been doing it as well, don't just be like, hey, here's my match. Because, yeah, obviously you've got to talk up your match and you've got to cut the actual, promos, brother. But share the match card and be like, hey, come see me plus this. And promotions need to do that as well, because I was actually just listening to a podcast, and, it's cheap plug because it's my mate, but what if it's cool? In Daniel Paul Crow in Melbourne. He's now play-by-play for Alpha Pro Wrestling, and he also works, somewhat with MXW and Adrenaline Pro, because he constantly has the talent on there. Shout out to MXW. We had a handful of their people.
Love them.
Capital Wrestling. Fucking awesome. But like, he was just talking to Jeremiah Kingsley, who's someone that I would love to get in Extreme Capital Wrestling. If we could swing that, that would be amazing. But like, he's listing, all of these promotions, and some of them were actually viewed by, the Australian critics, because journalists, I don't know how people become wrestling critics or journalists to begin with, let alone in Australia, but they were like, look down on promotions that are, even if they're just up and coming, because they're only in their infancy, they'll be like, ugh, what is this thing? But because of social media, promotions like Adrenaline Pro or MXW are up there, and they're just as well known, at least with the wrestlers, and now a lot of the fans are starting to know they're in the vision. And obviously, I'm not going to say that in terms of quality or talent, because that's all subjective. I think a lot of that talent is well on their way to being Australia-wide, if not worldwide. I think a talent like Jackson Thornhill I'm talking to, or A-Shaq from MXW, will break out in this country, or should definitely break out in this country. But again, it's all, people are going to say, oh, well, they're your friends, so you're biased. But no, I think they're this talented. But I can literally go, hey, here's this wrestling company, and in the same breath, I will think of an EPW in Perth and an MXW in Melbourne. And obviously, the production value on the former is very higher than the latter. But because they're the social media present and the effort and the work they're putting in, it's, it's just...
It's why I really believe that even if you have a feud going on, you should still try to at least plug your fellow workers, at least somewhat. Because as much as it is a very competitive business, unfortunately, it's still a business where you have to put people around you over somewhat. Because if it's just you and it's only you that's on the show, according to your fans, why would they want to come just to see you wrestle someone?
See, it's all good to and again, this is where using your social media to kind of, market yourself so that you can get at least, hey, 5 people bought a ticket just to see you. That's great in theory. Yes, stroke the ego a little bit, whatever.
Exactly.
But if you can go, hey, here's all of this and put over your opponent, put over the other talent, but most importantly, put over the company, you're going to sell 10 tickets, 15 tickets. And look, there's probably a small pocket of people outside of the ACT that know who I am. I don't think anyone in Perth outside of Jeremiah Kingsley knows who I am. That's fine because that's my job and I've used my connections somewhat to build that. I don't think anyone in Adelaide has any fucking clue who I am. I'm fine with that. But I'm slowly, people in Queensland, even though I don't wrestle up there anymore, I still have a pocket of fans that now keep up on my social media because I marketed myself while I was up there. It's all just,
Definitely is just me.
I ain't a big star, and I ain't the best wrestler, and that's fine. I'll wear that. But I've brought a few people to a show or two here and there during my little run, and I can pride myself on that.
I think there's another thing wrestlers love to work on and should work on is marketing connections. Every show should be a way to market to someone, make some connections. The amount of networking you should do at wrestling shows is insane.
And again, it's you could argue the market's oversaturated or whatever, so it is a bit harder. But again, even the casual fans, my mum is not a wrestling fan. If it's on TV, she does not give a shit. But she'll go to the live action shows. She's gone to the last 2 Slam shows. Shout out to Slam, also in the ACT. They have done amazing things, and I'm really hoping I can actually get to one of their shows in the future. Just obviously with health issues and stuff, I just haven't been able to go. But I went to their show when they were still Wrestle Clash, and they had your Mick Moretti's and your Robbie Eagles and your Caveman Uggs and all of these people who they're still bringing in to Slam now. It's amazing to see, and that is a perfect example of marketing and social media usage. They post almost daily. They post at least once a day, and it's what you love to see. And I try, and I'm getting better because either I go not enough or too much. My personal page is just, it's an ongoing gag now with myself, DPC, and Jeremiah Kingsley that. There was one day the record was 64 Instagram stories, but I was like, it's literally just me shitposting memes because I don't have a life currently because of my health. But marketing. I feel like we've ranted for 10 minutes on marketing. My apologies, but it's just night and day. Just use your social medias.
There's no reason not to.
But so what once you got into the business, what is there any specific Australian promotions now that you're getting more into I say now, but you've obviously been in the business for a handful of years now, but since you've been in the business, what are some of your favorite Australian wrestling promotions? What is English?
I've been to personally, Slam is a huge one. The atmosphere at Slam shows are untouched, I think. Same with World Series. The amount of international talent they bring in, it is some of the most fun wrestling you'll go to.
I can wait for June. That's another one. Again, my mum's a casual fan, but she goes to World Series. Especially, I can't attest to the other ones because I've never been there personally, but that Penrith Panthers venue, you wouldn't even look at that as a wrestling venue on the surface, but then once it's all set up and the lights are down and the fog's somewhat there, it's beautiful. I get goosebumps just sitting in there waiting for the show to start. Again, and it comes down to markability. Adrian Monero, obviously, he owns a fucking furniture company, which is completely on the other side. It's not like chairs and tables and stuff, by God, for wrestling. It's proper house furniture. But because he's mastered the art of marketing for his company, specifically over in Adelaide, where he's based, he's like, well, why can't I put my salesmanship into a wrestling company? Because he's a massive wrestling fan. Again, marketing. But yeah, World Series is fantastic.
Dude, I remember the last show I went, that was a Mick Moretti entrance, and I full lost my voice within 10 seconds.
And that's crazy because you say that, right? You didn't mention any of the internationals when you say that. They bring internationals over, but that was an Australian talent that you literally just mentioned in that statement.
Oh, yeah.
So again, marketability, talent, it all,
Two of my favorites of all time right now, Mick Moretti and Kai Drake, both extremely talented.
Dude, Kai
Not giving
Drake
him that.
is phenomenal.
And he has some of the nastiest kicks. Oh, like, good lord.
Well, we will get into that in one of the very future. We'll get into that in the near future with one of the next questions. But I'm going to leave that in again because I'm stuttering. But before we get there, you talk about like, so you've been a wrestling fan for what year is it now? 2014. So 2020. Jesus Christ, 2024. So you got into a wrestling fan about 2014. That's what I was trying to say. So you've been a wrestling fan for about a decade this year, give or take, right? So in that 10 years, and I know that you're like me, like you're staying up to 4, 5, 6 a.m. going to sleep when the sun comes up, and you're watching all of this wrestling, and some of it's marking out, some of it's studying. Bukono los dos, why not do both? It's the best way to be. But you don't have to give me just one, but what are some of the handful of matches that you've what are some of your handful of favorite matches that you've watched and some of your favorite matches that you've had in your limited career thus far? That's what I was trying to ask, so that way we can mark out and then go into, hey, you're actually a wrestler too, and talk about shit you've done. What is English? This is the first interview I've done in a while. My apologies, Jackson.
It's all good. When I think of favorite matches, the first one that instantly popped out to me was a Cruiserweight Classic match of Noam Dar versus Zack Sabre Jr., which was insane to watch, that wrestling.
See, Zack Sabre Jr. is a weird one for me because, like, I wouldn't sit here and say that, like, I'm a super fan of his, and I don't even think I'd buy his merch. But if I wanted to watch a good match, I would go out of my way to find one of his matches. It's weird. See, it's weird thing about
his match. It's just I get so captivated watching things I've never seen before. That's like such a cool thing about the British style of wrestling is you'll sit there and in 10 minutes you've seen so many moves that you've never even thought of seeing before.
I was really hoping that they were going to sign him out of that tournament actually when it first happened, but
I believe the rumor that was the attempt.
Because his name is actually in one of the video games.
Is it?
On I can't remember which year it was, but on the Royal Rumble screen, with like for the Royal Rumble match, there's just like a bunch of like writing and stuff. And it looks nonsensical when you're looking at it just on the backdrop. But if you take like a screenshot of it and zoom in, Zack Sabre Jr.'s name is on that loading screen.
Well, there's a fun wrestling Easter egg for you.
I think it was like, I don't know if it was 15 or 16, could have even been 17. It was like a year or two after he was in the Cruiserweight Classic, so it was kind of like, oh, the assets are obviously added because they thought they had him in the bag or something. And they didn't sign. But yeah, that's kind of cool.
That's insane to think about. I would have known Zack Sabre Jr. Huge fan of pretty much any Will Ospreay versus Zack Sabre Jr. match. I think their two different styles fit so perfectly together. Especially with Ospreay now being more of a heavyweight wrestler, which I very much enjoy.
He is another one that, like, I don't know if I'd say he's like my all-time favorite because, like, again, I've been watching for a lot longer than you. I'm fucking 30 at the end of the year. I'm getting old. But, like, he's one that, like, he's one of my favorites currently. Like, and again, talking about Evolve, like, yeah, he used to be what they'd call a bit of a flippy bitch. But again, I've been watching Will Ospreay since the year he debuted when I used to watch Wrestle Talk, when it was in, like, the actual TV show format before it just became online. And they were doing features on British wrestling. And I saw Zach Gibson when he was just starting, and Will Ospreay when he was just starting, and all of these people that went on to be in NXT UK and shine in Progress and Rev Pro. And it's, again, to think that it was probably, you know, a decade or a little bit less ago that I was watching all these people, and now they're here, there, and everywhere in WWE and AEW and some in New Japan. It's just, it's crazy to think, but Will Ospreay is fantastic.
Because he's, without a doubt, one of the best wrestlers on the entire planet right now.
I have no doubt that he's like,
his due.
This is where it comes, like, it's a bit, again, it's subjective and yada, 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 because people like what they like, they don't like what they don't like. But I'd honestly, like, if you were to go, I don't know about the order, but I'd at least say top 5. Will Ospreay's got to at least be in the top 3 of that top 5 currently.
Oh,
like, forget, you know, accolades and main eventing WrestleMania or, you know, being in AEW and headlining fucking Wembley Arena, which is going to be a yearly thing for them now, which is
amazing.
Awesome. the last pay-per-view I actually paid for, I think, was it All Out fucking 2021 where Adam Cole debuted? Whichever one he debuted at was the last one that I ordered. But I watched All In because obviously being in Australia, the deal that they had with ESPN, because it aired at, fucking 3 a.m. or whatever it was, they were like, hey, we're going to do the opposite because, like, the UK back in the day used to get the big 4 WWE pay-per-views for free in, like, their, like, sports channel. So they're like, we're going to do, like, the opposite because this is in the UK. Australia gets it for free via this deal. So I was like, cool. I watched that live, thoroughly enjoyed it. The Young Bucks FTR match, while not the best match they had, was fucking awesome. Like, CM Punk, Joe, Punk kind of peaked when he returned in his first match with Darby, but that was one of the better matches that he had in that AEW run. And I was just like, dude, like, if they can consistently sell out this arena on a yearly basis, when no one thought even 5 years ago that anyone other than WWE could sell out a 60,000 seat arena or whatever it was, like that, I think it was like 80,000 seat, but there was like, I think there was 70-something thousand because some of them were blocked off for talent and yada, yada, yada. But
still kind of in the air what the exact number was, I believe.
Yeah, I think we've gotten like 4 different numbers now. But the fact that there were, and even if you count staff, right? Like say that there's between the event staff and AEW staff, you can shave there's probably close to 1,000 people you could shave off with how big the arena is. But there's still 70,000 at least that was there. So that's awesome to me. And the fact that that Will Ospreay Chris Jericho match, Chris Jericho, like, I don't know what he did to train for that match, but he turned back the clock. And again, having someone like Will Ospreay to, I don't want to say carry the match, because again, Jericho fucking held his weight in that match. But Ospreay, that was my point, was a roundabout way of trying to go about a rant of Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and hey, AEW sold out an arena and yada, yada, yada. But that's because Will Ospreay was on that card, so it made fucking sense in my head. I'm sorry. But, like...
But also, like, going back to just watching the atmosphere of, like, Swerve's entrance, Will Ospreay, and, like, all those big names, and the crowd was absolutely eating it up.
And again, by the time Ospreay came out, I think it was in about midway point of the show, maybe a little bit after. So it was like 5 a.m. for us here in Australia, and we're both sitting there. And I think that was when Ospreay first had elevated back, wasn't it? Was that the actual match where he brought it back?
I believe so, yes.
I know, because all I remember was we were both just popping for it. It was like, elevated! And now he's just using it again.
I think New Japan either lost the rights or stopped using the theme, and I think he had a piano theme and then into elevated, which is very cool.
Yeah, I remember, like, you and I were messaging each other on Facebook Messenger, and Mrs Crossfire was snoring beside me, and I was trying not to wake her up, and we were just like da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and like literally on cue we've just messaged each other at the same time, and we're like, elevated, and we both literally had the exact same message in capital letters. Like,
I think that is like one of the like best wrestling theme songs.
And again, because he was not the hometown boy, but the home country boy, the UK fans obviously that kept up with him, they heard the opening theme, and that made the pop even bigger because it was back, and it's just he's just
wrestling fans of the UK are like untouched. They're so good. Same with Japan.
Money in the Bank was fantastic, like, because they're trying to make Money in the Bank almost a big 5, like to replace what King of the Ring used to be. And the fact that they went to the UK last year and now they're going to Canada this year, which Canada are another rowdy bunch no matter where you go in Canada, but the UK fans they're just on another level. And I think
they really are.
I've recently, or not recently, it was probably like 2 years ago now, but recently-ish, when I was listening to Will Ospreay, I think it was on Talk is Jericho, he's talking about how he actually used to be a nerdy little kid, and he used to be like a theater kid and stuff, and I was like, this makes so much sense as to why this guy is so fucking good. Like, yeah, we're just doting over Will Ospreay here. But before we get to the next question, which I'm sure Will Ospreay is probably going to be brought up again, what are some of your favorite matches that you've had personally in your short career? Because, as I said, I witnessed your very first match where you're under a hood. You were the Emerald Warrior for a night, kayfabe, who gives a shit? And then you were meant to be teamed with Zuzu, and you were Kid Crazy, but I can't remember the actual. It was like a Loco or something. The Loco Kid? Loco Kid.
I think it was Loco Kid.
So I witnessed your first match where you got murdered by Reverend Diath under the hood. It was pretty much a glorified squash, but I was so impressed. I I tell everyone the story of how you came backstage and I was like, you little shit, you scared the hell out of me. And you were like almost crying. You were like, I'm so sorry. And I just started laughing and you're like, what? And I'm like, dude, I'm so proud. Because you had all the boys backstage worked that you were hurt. And then you come backstage and you're like, no, I'm a good fan. And we're like, this kid, this is his first match. Like, why is he, I said to the promoter, why is he under a mask? Like, I get, we needed a body, but it's like, why? Why did you put him under that mask? Like, it could have just been him getting squashed as himself. Like, it was amazing. And then, obviously, Loco Kid, you faced Sam Driver and James Marshall. Shout out to James Marshall. Hopefully, we can get him to Extreme Capital Wrestling, seeing as how someone that he may or may not be affiliated with via via marriage or almost marriage. Savannah Rowe, everyone knows they're engaged in real life. She even said it on whatever it's called herself, kayfabe, damn it. But hopefully with Savannah Rowe as a part of the ECW roster, we can get James Marshall, because that match was actually cut short due to a referee error. And you guys were told with a moment's notice to go home, and you were just kind of like, oh, so pretty much Sam got stuff in, you got like a couple of kicks and stuff in, but you didn't get like everything that you had planned, just got cut. And it was like, okay, well, gonna get decapitated by James Marshall now and take the pin. But no, I want to see that match run back, especially now with how far you've come. And I've said it to you, I've said it to Marshall, I've even said it publicly that I don't care if it's ICW, ECW, hey, it could be MXW or Adrenaline Pro, fucking book Jackson Thornhill versus James Marshall, and I'm there. Like,
I'd love to verse Marshall again, because he was the ones where I was very nervous coming in. It was only like my second or third match.
I think it was your second match ever.
Yeah.
So it was like a re-debut for you in a way.
Who was very patient with it and also very helpful. Like, I was learning how to do things and he would show me his way that worked so much better for me. And it was one of those things of instantly clicking with me that, James Marshall is someone that I could really look up to at times. And, like, seeing how far he's come since that is amazing.
But from the beginning of you being the Emerald Warrior and getting just destroyed by Reverend Death, and people will be like, okay, fair, but like literally, he's been taller, he's been shorter, he's been skinnier, he's been fatter. No secret that there's been like 4 or 5, if not more, people that have played him. So I don't think it really fucking matters that you know one of them. From that to then your, I guess, official debut, because that we had your face and you were the Loco Kid, and then I guess your I was going to say your re-debut just for shits and gigs, but no, your re-debut, because obviously the Emerald Warrior is its own separate thing and will carry on no matter who's under the hood. But your re-debut was Jackson Thornhill again. Face Big James. And again, I love you both dearly. Neither of you should have been in that situation. But again, what you did, you had a good match. The fans reacted. That's all that fucking matters, right? But from that point on, from you being Jackson Thornhill to now you've just had what, in my opinion, is probably your best match. And again, you faced Jake Gibson where you won the title. What is a couple of your favorite matches that you've had since that point?
My two that I will always stick to is me versus Nick Martino at Southside Bash.
Yes.
Where I lost a taste because I may have hit the man too hard and he didn't like that. So I learned my lesson. Don't slap Nick Martino.
Nick Martino's already legally deaf, and Jackson Thornhill slapped the hearing out of his good ear. So he slapped the taste out of Jackson Thornhill's mouth in return, I guess. The old recipe. But no, I enjoyed that match. I was on commentary for that match, and I was nervous as fuck because that was the show that I did commentary just by myself. But pretty much every match on that card made my job a lot easier.
I generally think that was one of the better matches I've had. That and the one I just had with Jake Gibson, where I got to really try a lot more of a grounded technical style, which is something I don't get to do too often.
Yeah, so I watched that back obviously on YouTube. Go watch that, cheap plug on CPW. What was it? Clash of the Capital part 2, I believe it was on the video because it was later in the card. Yeah. But I watched that back, and it was like fucking 3 a.m. because I just seemed to do my best thinking at that point. And I was legit, like, I even said to Teak the next morning, like, I was legit kicking myself that I missed that, because I was even though I already knew like you'd won the match, you won the title. I guess technically I actually am the manager of a champion, and he's a heavyweight champion, so suck on that, Timothy Wilkes and Wilkes Talent Factory. But like no, like I legit I was marking out watching that match, and it was this thing of Like, Jake has taught me so much, and like sitting there, it was like, fuck, this is a good match. And then I took a second, and it kind of hit me that I was like, these two are literally my friends. Like, my friends just did that. Like, and I had this moment of, oh my God, like, what the fuck? Like, and the fact that, ICW, again, and in the last few years, we've really turned up our social media presence, and they're slowly uploading all the events to YouTube and stuff, and it's really good to see, and I'm having a lot of fun personally doing the posters on Crossfire_graphics on Instagram, cheap plug. But, like, no, like, you guys, it's like, the fact that it's so, like, yeah, more people saw it than they would have a handful of years ago, which is awesome. But I'm still just like, I would honestly, and I'm not just saying it because you two dudes are my homies, like, I could put that match against just about any match in Australia, and I was so fucking proud, especially considering, and I don't even want to say this as an insult, because I always joke that I'm green as goose shit, because I'm uncoordinated and clumsy as fuck, but like, considering your experience level, you could be considered by some veterans, and granted, there's only probably a handful of people in Australia that can actually call themselves a veteran. Longevity doesn't just automatically make you a veteran and a legend. I said what I said. Fucking sue me. But, like, I feel like they could look at that match, and yeah, there's probably a handful of things where they could go, you could have done this, you could have done that, like, behind the scenes or whatever to amp it up. But just from a fan perspective, dude, like, the fans were into it. I was legit marking out on my couch. There was a couple of false finishes. And again, it took me out of the moment where Jake pinned you on something. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But I was like, when you kicked out, I was literally like, holy shit. And then it was like, oh, you dickhead, you already know he won the match. But like, you guys did your job, and you suckered me in after the fact. So I was just like, imagine what the people, like, there's a reason the people that were there were going nuts. And, Dennis and Dave did a great job on commentary of really getting both of you over, which again, it's a commentator's job. I like to think I do a pretty decent job of doing that. But no, it was an amazing match. Definitely the best match you've had. But is there any other matches you've had or opponents that you have had that you've enjoyed so far?
Opponent-wise, Reverend's up there. Because it's just, he has such a hard-hitting style, which is another style I quite enjoy. I enjoy the technical and the hard-hitting, and he'll hurt you.
But the thing about him, though, is as hard as he hits, you just hit him back even harder.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fine, like,
I mean, I believe I saw the photo that I sent you once where I was wrestling the earth, and I had black and yellow chest and a bit blue for about 2 weeks.
Yeah, well,
I was very heavily bruised.
I actually remember, like, because there was a period of time, it was about a year or so after that match where I lived with you, but every so often during that period where you first had your debut for the Elf, I'd crash on your couch every now and then because we'd legit be studying or whatever, and it'd be that late to the point where your mum's like, dude, just sleep on the fucking couch. Like, you're not gonna walk home at this hour or get an Uber home at this fucking hour. And like, I remember, like, literally you lifted your shirt up and you were like, hey, remember this? And it's like 2-3 weeks later and it's still like semi-welted.
It's definitely the worst chops I've had. They lasted so long.
And the best part is, as we say, like, yeah, okay, kayfabe, whatever. That was your first ever match as Emma Warrior, and a lot of people would have gone, fuck this. Like, I gave it a shot. Like, I'm done. But you stuck with it, and you kept going and you kept evolving. And like, I was proud of you then, and I'm even more proud of you now. But
I don't have the exact numbers, but I think by the Emerald Warrior match, I trained for maybe 4 or 5 months.
I think it was just on the cusp of 5 months, because obviously you had to referee and stuff. And didn't you still referee a match after that? Didn't you go get into your ref gear, and every time you went down to count, you were like, ah.
I'm not sure if it was.
I don't know if it was that one or another show, but I remember you took some sort. You might have even just taken a chop for the sake of taking a chop. But I remember one show you were reffing up there, and you were literally dropped down to count, and you come backstage and you're like, just getting on my chest, the count hurts.
I can't remember what show it was, but I think you're right. I remember I reffed Reverend DF versus Sam Driver.
Yeah, that was the very first show of the company that won't be named. Fucking sue me. No, but again, like, everyone knows who I'm talking about at this point, and maybe I'm just being petty, but whatever. I think the owner's a complete wanker. But the booking committee has done amazing things. They have amazing talent now. I'm rooting for every single one of them, man, woman, whatever, I don't, the workers to say, just the wrestlers, the workers, that's the term, the gender inclusive term. I'm rooting for everyone to do good shit, and they're all doing good shit. And the new thing that they've got in Queensland with like is there 4 or 5 promotions where they're kind of working together now, and they're having title matches from other promotions on their cards, and they're not going out of their way to purposely bury another promotion's champion, which is, again, wrestling. And this comes back to what I was saying with like the social media stuff again, because I went off on another tangent. But you're talking about wrestlers really have to amp it up, and they've got no choice but to take it seriously in this day and age, especially if you're an up and comer, right? All of these people, when wrestling works together, like if you're not just trying to be, hey, look at me, like, yeah, okay, I call myself the real main event, the essential, when I'm, again, I hate using the term, but when I'm in character, right? But if I pull myself out of that and I look at it properly, I've always tried to get over my opponent, the card, whatever, yada, 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 especially now as a commentator where in kayfabe I'm meant to be unbiased and I've got to put everything over. But like when people in wrestling work together, and by proxy now wrestling companies work together, there's only one person that wins, or one group that wins, and that's the fan. So I fucking so happy. And I even shared their post on my personal page, and I was like, look, it's no secret there's sour grapes there, and, they say don't hold a grudge. It's not so much holding a grudge. I just don't like the way I was treated on a personal level outside of wrestling. But I think it's fucking awesome, and I hope that the Queensland wrestling fans get to enjoy every single second of it and reap all the benefits that there's going to be for it.
Exactly. That's why I love that the wrestling companies come out, because it is the things they're winning. And at some point, even the wrestlers win because they get new experiences.
Like there is some people, and like, I'm probably going to get hate for this, but it's I wouldn't say anything on this pod that at the end of the day I wouldn't say to someone's face. There is people that get upset in New South Wales or Victoria when another company runs the same night. It's no secret that currently, I don't know if they're going to change the date or not, but currently ICW and Slam now, their March shows are on the same night. They have a capacity for Slam for 500 people in that venue. So the way I see it, with the amount of wrestling fans that are in the nation's capital, what's to say we can't have 2 sold-out wrestling shows on at the exact same time, because we cater to different audiences. Like I love Slam and I love everything they're doing. I'll go to their shows. I'll keep sharing their shows. And I had a wrestler recently, and if he listens to this, he'll be like, why did you bring this up? Get mad that my mum went to one of their shows. I'm like, dude, my mum's a fan. Well, first of all. Yeah. Second of all, if you're going to get mad, then, just get lost.
One thing I don't understand why wrestlers get upset about it.
It's like the same as, and this is, sorry to cut you off, I'll let you finish your point, but that's the reason I bring up the whole Queensland thing, right? Work together, right? So many people go, if you work for this company, you won't get booked here, and yada, yada, yada. And now they've gone, fuck that. And look at the traffic that got on social media and the buzz that's got since then. Like, just, I'm not saying that ICW and Slam are going to have a fucking, working relationship or any means, but I love everything that those guys are doing, and I'll continue to support it and continue to support ICW, obviously, because it's my home. But continue your point before I end up going on a rant and get myself in trouble.
I don't understand why wrestlers are against it. It's 1, the fans win. 2, the wrestlers win. You get more opportunities. Like with Slam Pro Wrestling, I'd love to train with them, especially recently I had Damien Slater, absolutely glorious wrestler, do a seminar.
Just imagine what that would do for someone, and this is all hypothetical currently, but we have 3 main rookies currently, right? With yourself, Zach Stryker, and Bo Kennedy. Now, not to discount Bo's ability or your ability, but the moment you said Damien Slater, I instantly went to, what would Zach Stryker specifically? Because again, you guys, you're all a hybrid of styles in the modern day wrestling, but I look at the style of wrestling that Stryker's trying to find his groove in, and I'm literally like, dude, like having Damien Slater train Zach Stryker would have me beaming just so fucking hard with pride. You have no idea.
Like Damien Slater is absolutely one of the greatest minds of Australian wrestling, I believe. Which is why instantly, the moment he got Patreon, followed it. He's one of the greatest people to follow out when you want to learn something, whether that be business, wrestling, how to carry yourself, anything like that. He's insanely good.
And like, obviously he's the former champ now, but a guy like Mikey Broderick, if you got the chance to, again, it's all theory, but if you had the chance to just pull him aside and say, hey, what can I do to improve, or even better, like what should I continue doing, right? Because everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses, and it comes down to, hey, this move was really good, work on that, make it even better, or hey, this one's okay, but you need to work on it. And then there's going to be some that it's like, don't do that pretty much ever again, right? And having someone like that pull aside and just put in the little bits, or hey, this was great and that was great, but maybe they should have just been in the opposite order, sort of thing. Like, and even Lightning Luke Watts. Oh, I shouldn't say Hot Lightning Luke Watts, because that's a very aged gimmick. My apologies. But the current Slam champ, Hope from the Top Rope, Luke Watts. I still think he needs to cut the ridiculous hair, but that's just me. He likes it. It is what it is, right? But he's a phenomenal mind. And like I said months before they even announced that it was going to be a cage match, that I don't know what it was, but I had a hunch, and I literally said it publicly. I was like, I bet you they're going to have a cage match, and they did. And then I was like, I bet you Luke's going to jump off the cage. And I think it's not just a revelation. I think most people went, Luke's probably going to jump off the cage. And like, obviously, you were there in person as a fan. I was just watching it on YouTube at the time. I was actually at my nan and pop's house seeing family. I was literally, my nan, because she missed me, she ordered pizza. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was sitting there eating pizza. I had my earphones in, and I was watching the Slam. I almost said the Slam Rumble. That was the most recent show that just happened a couple of weeks ago. But like, I was watching the Convention Center show. I don't think that actually had a name. I think it was just Slam, whatever number it was, wasn't it? But anyway, while I was watching it, even though he started climbing up there, and I'm like, he's going to moonsault off that. Like, for sure, he's moonsaulting off that. But even just the act of actually seeing it, the atmosphere, again, it comes down to fans. The atmosphere literally transcended through the screen. So like, you being there in person, like, that would have had to be amazing, right?
Oh, I really do believe Slam has like the perfect audience. They're so vocal and they're so behind every wrestler. Maybe some who are not so happy with the fans, but they still get their way, so who cares? But being there and watching some of these wrestlers who you're going to see on MCW, PWA, just absolutely demolish it right in front of you. It's insane. And with all the fans there, everyone was loving it.
But like, even their most recent show, right? Like, they had the opening match was the Slam Heavyweight Championship, which makes sense. I mean, the opener and the main event is important. Obviously, the main event was slotted. It was the Rumble. So why not open? Why not open with the Heavyweight Championship? You had Vinnie Bronson challenging for the Slam Championship. Now, I'm sure Vinnie Bronson, once his career is said and done, he's probably not going to remember little old Crossfire, because I was just, I was just a fucking piss fart little spoke in the wheel that was just dragging along. But I mixed it up with Vinny very, very early in his career, and like, we had great chemistry, and it was a very fun time. And just to see how far he's gone from that to now, I don't want to pull the curtain back too hard, but I was wrestling Vinny before he somehow mysteriously picked up an accent that's completely real and definitely not. But no, the character, I would argue, right? We bring in like Mick Moretti and stuff like that to Slam. I think Ugg's been there a couple of times to himself, right? I would argue that on a consistent basis, I think Vinnie Bronson has the best character work in the entire Slam Pro League. And that's an amazing testament to what they do. And you could argue that on the Rumble show, it might have been the weakest match on the card, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad match. It's just that, Vinny obviously is still learning and he's still getting his grips. And then obviously you had the tag match, the women's match with some great female talent. And obviously the Rumble, which was just stacked with some pretty big names in Australian wrestling. It just is what it is. But no, I enjoyed it and I loved it, and I just like marking out. But I think that's a good point to transition to the next part of this question, and this is where you get to just go fucking nuts, pretty much. Like,
let's go.
Who are some of your ultimate dream matches, and also what are some of your like dream stipulations that you want to do, or even just favorite stipulations you've seen? But it's technically a 3-part questions, but you can go like, I'm talking dead or alive, like who are some of the ones that, you know, will probably never happen or aren't the most realistic right now, and then we'll transition into locally and stuff that you'd like to work your way up to. So, like, for me, I would love to be able to get in the ring with Vinnie Bronson again, right? When I'm cleared. Like, I'd love to, even Dan Archer, right? Like, me and him never really saw eye to eye. That's no secret. I've got nothing, you know, it's nothing personal. I think it's just personalities clash, egos clash. It is what it is. I would love, like, when I'm cleared, to tear it up with Dan Archer. I feel like that would be a super fucking fun time. But, like, who are some of your ultimate just dream opponents? And then following from that, some of your dream stipulations / just favorite ones to watch.
I'll give you 2 local and 2 international. One local is definitely Zach Striker. I've won a match for a while. Never happened. Maybe one day.
Well,
I think me and him.
I feel like at this point, you know, now that we've got this whole rogue thing going, I'm sure once Striker's cleared, maybe if it's just even just test to see if Striker's, you know, ring ready or whatever, have a little exhibition match of sorts between rogue members, and maybe I could even be the special guest referee if ICW or Extreme Capital Wrestling are listening. And I'll put myself in that situation because I want the best fucking seat possible. And that way I don't have to try and call the action because I know it's going to be too crazy and I'm going to get too blown up just trying to call it. But no, I 100%, like, Zach Striker versus you has to happen, and I think definitely will happen once Zach's cleared. But give me the other one.
It's really between Robbie Eagles and Kai Drake. Robbie Eagles, because the amount of experience I'd get from that.
But again, though, I feel like both of those are still realistic. Like, yeah, Robbie's, you know, doing the New Japan thing, but there's a lot of time when in his off time when he comes back to Australia after the, you know, 2-3 month excursion or whatever it is that he does in New Japan, where, you know, he pops up here and there across the New South Wales scene, and he's popped up a few times in the ACT and Slam. So who's to say that someone won't throw some money out and then book it? You never know.
Never know, exactly. Internationally dream matches.
Man.
Chris Hero's one.
Oh.
I'd love to check out Chris Hero.
It's Chris Hero's elbows versus Jackson Thornhill's kicks. Let's fucking go.
But then also, like, the technical wrestling. I'd let Samina
Yes, he's a fantastic. I think people forget how good of a technical wrestler he is, actually, because there's legit, like, hundreds of YouTube compilations of Chris Hero elbow smashes and shit like.
To be fair, his elbow smashes are some of the nicest ones you see.
100%.
Another international. It's Marky, but Will Ospreay.
Yeah, I was like, I thought he was going to swerve me for a second and not say Will Ospreay. I was like, bruv.
I was between him and Swerve, actually.
I am a huge fan. So this is what goes back to how I was ranting before as well about how I haven't bought an AEW pay-per-view since da-da-da-da. Swerve being in the main event of the next AEW pay-per-view and it being Sting's last match, and Deonna versus Tony. Deonna, to me, I think is the best women's wrestler in the world and has been for the last year or two, if not a little bit longer. That intrigues me. So if I've got the funds there, I'm probably going to actually order the next AEW pay-per-view and mark the fuck out, and never know, hopefully if we can work it out, maybe we can watch it together depending on what we're both doing.
Well, maybe not.
But if not, I'm sure we'll be messaging each other during the duration of it anyway. But yeah, I 100%, like, another one that I'd love to see, because you speak of Chris Hero, someone that he jokes because he blatantly ripped Chris Hero off, but Richie Taylor. I know he costs a little bit of money these days because he's semi-retired now that he's come back. He's only taking the bookings that he wants, and that's fine. He's got the talent. He's got the notoriety to be able to want to do that. But if someone's willing to throw money at Richie Taylor, there's someone actually that I want to see you face. And it started as just because you kind of look like a younger version of him. But now that I've watched a lot of him, I would love to see you versus Felix Young from Perth. Now, he's quite often, quite regularly, is the word that I was trying to look for. There was another word there, but regularly I'll use. He quite frequently, that's the one, quite frequently dabbles in deathmatch stuff, but he is a fantastic just wrestler in his own right, and that's what arguably makes him a better deathmatch wrestler, is because he learned how to actually wrestle first. As I know that's a big debate right now, is that death match is trash and it's all trash. And it's like, well, it's not all trash, but it's mostly trash, unfortunately, in 2024 because people use it as a crutch to get into the business. But he and Jared Slate, who is a big bad man, I don't know the exact height. I don't know if this is just wrestling, but I swear that dude's like 6'5", 6'6", or something fucking... It might be like 6'4", 6'5".
Boy.
He's a big boy regardless. So like, Zach Stryker and Jackson Thornhill versus the Pulse. I still want to buy a Pulse G-string just for the sake of it. That's an actual merchandise item they have for men. They have Pulse G-strings, and I want one. I would probably never wear it, but I'd probably frame it or some shit. Wear it on my head like a hat. I don't fucking know. But
it's to come out.
But are there any other dream stipulations or dream opponents or goal opponents that you want to work yourself towards over the next handful of years?
Well, you're giving me one, which won't happen, unfortunately, because he's, I believe, retired from wrestling, or at least deathmatch wrestling. I would love a deathmatch match with Drew Parker. He really got me into deathmatch wrestling. I think he's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't remember if he's retired completely or if it was just from deathmatch that he retired. But I know there was some sort of retirement that I heard about like a few months ago to a year, however long ago it was. Wow.
Because I think his matches, they really got me into deathmatch. And if it's ever on, I'll definitely watch it. That's something I actively search for. But I'd love to have a deathmatch with him one day. But won't happen. Never know.
I'm sure there's some people, either internationally or or locally, I should say, when you're talking about nationally. Saying nationally sounds weird. Either internationally or local, that would probably be willing to have some sort of match like that. But just keep your fingers crossed. keep it out there. Keep training.
Not sure if it'll happen. But I know will kill me.
Put it out there into the universe, but
if I get a single, kill me. So,
on the note of death matches, what are some of your dream stipulations that you'd love to wrestle? And then just, even if there's some you don't want to do, we'll go into some of your favorites to just watch in general. But what are some of your dream stipulations that you'd like to do?
I think me and Zack Stryker tag team ladder match would be awesome. Again, it's pretty much anyone. I think that would be a fun match to do. We'd think of some stupid shit, but goes around.
I mean, my goal is still to do some sort of TLC match in some sort of capacity. It's just a matter of what do we hang above the ring? Say that 10 times.
Rogue, the one for the title.
I'll just hang up the Rogue T-shirt. The whole match will just be by my match.
Rogue.
My eye patch.
You grab the shirt.
Hang my eye patch from the rafters for a ladder match. But yeah, ladder match of Zack Stryker. What's another?
I'd love to do a cage match. As rare they are as Australia, I think they are some of the most fun matches to watch.
I feel like just about every wrestler, not even just in Australia, but every wrestler is like, give me a cage. Because again, I'm not as agile as Luke Watts, but I'm 100%. If I got to the top of a cage, I would 100% jump off the top of a cage. I'd probably cripple myself in the process, but I would 100% jump off a cage at least once. At least once.
That'd be a great way to end your week. You come out from eye surgery, you're good to go. Jump off the cage, break both your legs.
At
least I did it though.
Flying headbutt off the cage. Both my eyes explode.
Oh god, Brian Pillman. I'm not Brian Pillman. Good lord, Kristen Ma.
But any other stipulations, or perhaps just ones you like to watch?
Oh,
I think we've lost Jackson.
I am a huge fan of. I'm a huge fan of Iron Man matches, especially recently, technical ones. I'm not sure if it actually was an Iron Man match, but it was Hangman vs. Bryan. Watching them two go at it is insane to watch.
Yeah, because they went to the.
I love the bloody.
To Hangman and Kenny. Bryan and Kenny.
Yeah. I do like some of the draws. I'll be honest. As much as they get shat on, I really do enjoy them.
It's one of those things where, and I think they haven't done it as much, but WWE like used to always do DQs and countouts like just about on a weekly basis. But they've kind of slowed down on it now. But like a good time, I feel like every match, no matter the corporate or no matter the promotion or situation, every match should have a time limit. Like even if it's like whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then obviously when you get to like a title match or the main event specifically, say every match is 15 minutes. You're like, okay, well the main event, because it's the main event, it's for the big title or whatever, it's 20 minutes or 25 minutes. I wouldn't go 30 because then eventually you can use that to build to, hey, if you don't have time on a show for a 60-minute Iron Man match, you can go, well, hey, these guys had a 20-minute time limit draw, so now 30-minute Iron Man match. Like, we're going to have not just 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, and da-da-da-da, and storytelling, right? Like, fuck me, what's that? But no, time limits are I feel very under you. And that's one thing that, like, publicly I'm kind of like, look, I think Tony Khan is a bit of a numpty, to be honest. Like, we'll use that nightly. But I feel like that's something, the time limit specifically is something that he has utilized to absolute perfection. Like, I don't think he's ever had any issues with the time limit. Like, every time limit draw that they've had so far has always meant something.
It's so impactful.
And like, there's been some where I'm like, oh, well, you could have done this and you could have done that. But at the end of the day, it's his company. He books what he wants. And I feel like, again, he's phenomenal with the utilization of the time limits. But no, Iron Man matches I don't think I've ever even seen a bad Iron Man match, to be honest with you. Like,
I'll be your first, don't worry. No, I thought I was bitter. I love doing an Iron Man match. First 2 minutes, I'll break my leg. There you go. That'll be your Iron Man match.
He's just crawling.
Diving big boot off the second row.
Crawling on all. It's an our Iron Man match, and he's just crawling on all fours for 58 minutes.
Oh Lord.
Oh Jesus.
As goofy as it is, because I've watched NXT do it a lot on like their house shows, I would love. Cause it's so stupid. The blindfold matches. I think they're so stupid. But at the same time, a part of me wants to do one at least once.
I actually. This interview is going to drop tomorrow as we record this on Saturday. It's going to drop on Sunday at the usual time that the episodes usually drop out when I actually do get a chance to do them. But in 2 weeks from now, it's going to be a spoiler alert. I'm doing a reaction with what if it's cool. It wasn't even intended to be a cheap plug, but cheap plug. And we're reacting to a match with Bo Hocking between him and Hitman George Julio, who, again, you're probably a little bit too young to know who that is, but he's one of the most proficient trainers in Australian wrestling, literally ever. The dude's like, I think in his 70s, and he's still training people, and he's going on like 40 years of training or something, which is fucking nuts. But we reacted to a match with between him and Bo, and I can't remember, but if it was because we were teasing him on air about, no, we want to do a new match, But I can't remember if it's actually going to be in the episode or if it was after we'd actually stopped recording. But I made a joke to Bo because he's like, he'd mainly done comedy matches, but he wants to just do commentary and managing. He doesn't want to do bumps. And I literally made a joke to him. I'm like, well, I'm blind, so the irony would be I get my eye fixed, and then he and I have a blindfold match. But hey, if someone wants to book me versus Jackson Thornhill in a blindfold match just for fucking shits and gigs when these stitches come out, let's fucking do it. Like, I don't care.
I mean, I will say, we've had some stupid ideas. I remember me and you joked about, in the company that will not be named, doing a match in dresses for one show.
Well, they wanted to put me in a dress for real. I literally went and fucking put this character together where it was like Undead Bride, crosses with Marilyn Monroe, and then my theme song was going to be Sweet Dreams, the cover version by Marilyn Manson. He's a bit controversial at the moment, so we'll leave that there. But I went through this whole fucking thing, and then they're like, oh, well, because you're going to enjoy it, we're not going to do it. They literally wanted to do it to humiliate me, which, again, that's why I say, fuck that company. But that's neither here nor there, and fuck the person that I was meant to wrestle in that match, because he's a piece of shit. Anyway, he actually is a piece of shit. He's sexual harassment isn't a joke, and that person seems to think it was. I'm obviously not going to name their name here, but if anyone wants to know, I will literally tell them in a message, you can't sue me because you can't sue over the fucking truth. But yeah, a match in the dress. I feel like, again, it's kind of like very like random one, but it works. I remember like when Vito, again, you're probably too young, he used to be like the Italian stallion or something. He's this big Italian dude, bald dude, genuinely knock you the fuck out if he wanted to. For some reason, when he went to WWE in like 04, 05, actually no, I think it was about 05, 06, they put him in a dress and he was undefeated because the whole thing was he'd like, do like the cradle pin and he'd basically have their junk, like obviously he had underwear on, but because he was wearing a dress, his junk was basically in their face. So it was like 1, 2, 3 because they were trying to get out of the pin. And he was like undefeated for like a handful of weeks. And then I think he just got destroyed by like generic monster number 2 who then disappeared into the face of the earth. So I can't even remember the dude's name. He was, I think Elijah Burke, I think, was his manager. If you remember Elijah Burke, what was his name? D'Angelo Gennaro in TNA. I'm pretty sure he was the dude's manager. Sylvester Turkey. I don't know if you've ever seen him or not. If he's, I don't know what his nationality is off the top of my head, but he's just this like big fucking tank of a dude, and he just came in and he just like destroyed the dude, and then I was like, okay, well, you build up that undefeated streak for nothing. Like, I get trying to make the other new dude like credentials, but okay. But no, it's an actual thing.
Yeah, I've always been very open about doing like sort of weird matches because I'm very open about my sexuality and stuff.
Oh, and as you should be, man. Like,
I don't care what happens to me. As long as it's funny.
There's the thing, like it's not, there's unfortunately in this day and age you've still got to say, hey, if any homophobic and yada 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 things are said at the show, you'll be ejected. But like, dude, like, have fun with it. It's like I look at someone like Effie, right? And even though I'm a straight man, I'm so fucking inspired by that dude. Like, he's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Who knows, maybe...
It's like, wrestling's just meant to be fun, so have fun with it.
Maybe in, like, 2-3 years, Jackson Thornhill will, like, blow up. And Effie will fucking book Jackson Thornhill on Effie's Big Gay Brunch number, whatever the fuck they're up to by that point. Like...
That or we have a match. Me, Effie, John Moxley, we all kiss.
Why not?
Dream match.
Why not?
I think it can happen in wrestling.
Wow, when I asked you that question, I wasn't expecting wearing a dress. I thought, I guarantee, I feel like this is one that's gonna be stolen. When you said, "Oh, you've had a lot of stupid ideas," I was like, "Fuck, which ones you got?" I thought you were gonna say the bubble wrap death match.
I do like that. I've also heard the what is it? Those soccer balls that you can wear, like the bouncy soccer balls you can run in. I've heard those death matches as ideas. I think those would be really fun to watch, though.
Yeah, well, I know people have talked about like wanting to do like the sumo suits and shit, but I'm like, bro, like that would be almost impossible. Fucking referee has to like try and pick you back up. But in saying that, the one that I like is when they do the gimmick battle royals, the Halloween battle royals, and there's always someone in a T-Rex suit, and they do it obviously because the T-Rex is tall, but it's not even like it works so well because in kayfabe a T-Rex is massive, so you need more than one person. But like in real life, you actually need that many people to help them get over because they can't fucking move in the suit.
I think stupid stuff in wrestling like that is what makes wrestling
but again,
one of the greatest sports.
It's one of those things where this is where wrestling becomes so subjective. Like, some people love deathmatch, some people hate deathmatch. A lot of deathmatch wrestlers that I've met actually personally hate comedy wrestling, and I'm like, that's what we're talking about here. That's literally my favorite is comedy wrestling because I feel like you can do so much more with comedy than any other genre, whether it's, actual wrestling, whether it's technical wrestling, strong style, fucking what's the other thing I'm thinking of? Like lucha style. My brain just went fucking dead. Like, what is wrestling? But like, there's so many different styles, and I feel like combining them all, and I feel like comedy's the most diverse. I almost said adverse, but that's short for adversity, which is complete fucking opposite. Some diversity. It's the most diverse form of wrestling, I feel, if you're not just talking about, strong style, lucha, technical, et cetera, et cetera. If you're talking about just, themed wrestling, whether it's, fast-paced, deathmatch, comedy, whatever, I think, comedy's definitely got the most legs. Is there any...
I think comedy also works. It's one of the most easy to find.
I remember seeing the clip of... So, like, deathmatch can be kind of hit or miss because a lot of people just like, fuck, here's the barbed wire, here's the thumbtacks, here's 10,000 fucking light tubes over the head in the space of 2 minutes for no reason, then followed by a kick out at one. But I feel like, for example, one that I've made no secret of wanting to do is I want to do a Lego deathmatch specifically. Because everyone stepped on Lego, everyone knows what that shit feels like, right? I took one Lego bump and I was like, that was amazing, I want to do it again, besides the fact that I was bruised like a motherfucker the day after. But, like, I feel comedy wrestling, especially, like, in this day and age when you're still trying to make people believe in the realm of kayfabe at an actual show. Like, kayfabe I don't think is dead, I think it's just skewed. In the realm of kayfabe when you're on the actual show, I think comedy, it's the most relatable.
Yeah.
And obviously it depends on, like, your audience, on the style of comedy you're doing. Like you said with Effie, right? Like, you're an openly proud member of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm really hoping I didn't forget any letters there, because I know there's some people, parts of those communities that do get upset if you forget the letters. That's not my intention if I had, so please. But, like, you use someone like Effie as an example where they're not making fun of that. He's just like, hey, this is who I am, so why not have some fun with it, turn it into wrestling.
Exactly.
You bring up, like, the John Moxley thing, right? John Moxley currently is more well-known for his deathmatch style than anything else. And the fact that, again, comes back to wrestlers should work together. The fact that Moxley was willing to, I don't know if I say put his ego aside, because, like, look, it's just a kiss, right? Like, it doesn't really fucking mean anything. But the fact that he was able to put his ego aside and separate himself from his character, who is a big bad, like, deathmatch wrestler, and go, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And I think, didn't Suzuki even do the spot? I think he got Minoru Suzuki to do a spot or something similar to that. I don't know if it was Effie or not, but Suzuki did something similar, like, a little while back. And even, like for example, this, you know, I hope I don't offend anyone in saying this, Nakamura kissing the Great Muda to suck the disc out and blow it back in the post-press.
It's one of my favorite spots.
In the post-match press conference, Muda called him a queer, right? And a lot of people were offended by that, and rightfully so. But within the context of that, and you got to realize the cultural differences as well, they were just like, did you see that coming? And basically he was just like, I don't know, maybe he's a, you know, such and such. Maybe that's why he did it, but it wasn't that, oh, he's a fucking yada, 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 and that's how people took it, unfortunately. But it was just like a spot that no one sees coming, and it's funny in a way, but it's also relatable, because you're like, who would have thought of that? Like, even recently, I literally just talked about this on the pod with Mrs Crossfire, and I'll finish this story before I, you know, go into plugging nothing but a good time as we get close on an hour and a half, because it's, you know, about an hour and 25 as you record this, and I haven't even put the intro and outro in yet, but that's fine. It's a court and conversation pod. We usually go about fucking an hour 40 these days. But Tajiri versus Joey Janela, I don't know if you saw that clip, but Janela with the sunnies hits him with the red mist, thinks he's safe, takes them off, hits him with the green mist and the buzzsaw kick, and still pins him anyway. But it's stuff like that, which is semi-comedic, but it's like, hey, why doesn't someone just... Because how many casual fans have seen that and gone, if they know they're wrestling that wrestler that does that, why not wear safety goggles or something like that? Or a face shield? And it's like, okay, here's the guy whose gimmick is that he wears the ridiculous sunglasses. Why not fucking use it? Like, wrestling is wrestling, or as Cody Dinner says, I think he says, wrestling is life, which is the name of his podcast. And it's like, it's you know, you're running in circles saying that, but it makes sense to people that are in the wrestling business, or at least the wrestling bubble. I just punched my table by accident. That fucking hurt. I'm pretty sure the mic picked that up. So if y'all are wondering what that random sound was. But so what are some of your favorite, like, stipulation matches that you've seen, like ridiculous gimmick matches that you've seen like that?
Definitely the blindfold one. Can't remember what show it was. I remember watching, I think it was Dexter Loomis versus Cameron Grimes at the Halloween match.
Yes.
I thought that was super funny.
Was it the haunted, like, mansion one?
The zombie ref.
Yes. Well, I haven't watched
it. I've seen clips. I thought it was hilarious.
Who did Miz face? I think it was it Priest that he faced? I think it was Damian Priest he faced. I could be wrong. But when they had, like, the zombies for the lumberjacks, and everyone was like, WWE's fucking stupid. This is the stupidest thing. And I was like, Look, it was stupid. It was stupid, but not in a bad way. I was laughing my ass off the entire time. The thing that popped me the most about that was that Scotty 2 Hotty, of all people, because he was a trainer at the PC at the time, was there, and because the makeup for the zombies was so good, literally no one realized that it was him. Like, one of the biggest names in the Attitude Era. Like, that's amazing to me that he was standing in plain sight because of the makeup. No one fucking realized. Like,
and so, like, I can understand those fans of who, like, it's stupid, but at the same time...
Yeah, but again, like, if you don't like it, that's fine. Like, you don't have to like it. That's not what we're saying. But they just died on the heel of, the company's gone down the toilet, I missed the Attitude Era. Ah! It's like, okay, go back to the Attitude Era where Kai and Tai, in kayfabe, cut off Val Venus's penis because he was a porn star and he slept with one of the mob's fucking sister or wife or whatever it was. How is that any different to fucking zombie lumberjacks? Like, how? And then Triple H having sex with the mannequin, Katie Vick, because it was Kane's ex-girlfriend. And I believe that segment actually happened on October 21st, which is my birthday in whatever year. Because every year on my birthday, everyone goes, it's been X amount of years since the Katie Vick fucking storyline. Like, we can look back at that and say, but even when we opened this pod, you brought up Eddie and Ray, right? Custody of a child in a ladder match? That is the stupidest shit, but it works so much within the realm of the story. But yeah, I'm going to have to, like, really fight myself now on whether or not I make some sort of Will Ospreay match the fucking match of the week, or if I find some sort of really stupid fucking gimmick. Some sort of stupid gimmick match. That's the match of the week. Oh, Jesus. But, yeah, well, the reason I bring you on this is because I said to you, I've been wanting to have you on for a while, but I wanted you to kind of get more established, and I don't think you can be more established than being the current fucking heavyweight champion as I talk to you. So, Clash in the Capitol, I believe it was December, the start of December in 2023. You won that title off Jay Gibson.
I believe so, yep.
February 17th. Nothing but a good time. Don't need nothing. But that's probably going to be the match of the week if I haven't done it before. I can't remember. I'm going to have to go through the list and make sure I don't double up. But it's probably going to be the song of the week. But you're defending against Nick Martino, and this is where it brings it all full circle because you, just like me, you know, despite the fact that he's become a bit of a jerk over the years and he's grumpy and he just wants to slap people and hurt people, kind of slipped up a little bit against A-Shack, unfortunately, but that's neither here nor there. I don't want him to beat me up. But he's gotten a little grumpy over the last few years, but full circle, he made you feel welcome, but now he's coming for your head, and more importantly, he's coming for the championship. So obviously I sent out the questions, and as I said to you just before we started recording, I got a handful of questions, but most of them were just, how did you get into the business? What's your favorite match? What's this, what's that? Which is all, that's great questions, but they're part of the core five since you've never been on before. It was a granted that I was going to ask you, but we had some trash talk actually sent in before I get to what Nick Martino said, where Bo Kennedy, the self-proclaimed prodigy, even though he's not self-proclaimed because I gave him that name, but for some reason he doesn't want to admit it, but that's fine. I regret doing it. I guess it's played into his ego a little bit. That's okay. He's facing this Apex Anderson dude. They want to steal the show. They want to make a statement. So, hey, buy your tickets and see if they succeed. I think they probably will. Bo is a very talented young man. I've never heard of Apex Anderson, but I've heard from a couple of people that he's been around for a while. So, yeah, maybe he can teach Bo a thing or two about a thing or two, or maybe Bo will continue to squeeze out victories and fluke his way to victories, but it is what it is. But he wanted to know Jackson Thornhill, and I did actually share this one, and you did see it, but you wanted to address this, and he asked you, when are you going to stop being so emo?
Whenever they stop making such great music. So, probably never.
Oh, you know what? I thought you were about to like tear him a new one, but that's probably the best way to answer that. And we're going to make Bo listen to this conversation just so that he can hear your reply to that and then get worked because there's absolutely nothing there.
An hour and a half for me to absolutely demolish him, and that's just good music.
Yeah, you know what? 100%. 100% Fall Out Boy is my shit.
Oh, yeah.
My Chemical Romance. Mrs Crossfire could probably name like 1,000 emo bands off the top of her head, but she's currently playing Disney Speedstorm in the background, so she's preoccupied. But no, I feel, honestly, that's a good one. That's a good one. Emo music. That's why, Bo Kennedy. Maybe I'll have to find some sort of emo song for the song of the week. I don't fucking know. Now, I'm all times are confused. But yeah, and then Nick Martino basically said that, how does it feel that he's going to beat you like a redheaded stepchild? And then Timothy Wilkes basically said, how does it feel that the world title's coming back to the Wilkes Talent Factory? So you can kind of address both of those statements in one, seeing as how Nick Martino did kidnap my son, Charles Charrington, and it is actually in the office of one Timothy Wilkes, and it was actually broken over you the night that he stole it. So how are you going to respond to A, the injury to your ankle he gave you, and B, the fact that now you're getting revenge, but just so happens he could win your championship in the process?
Well, one, it's been quite a while since the ankle injury, so it's healed up great. So
it's been a year as we record this, so it's February 2023 that it happened, so...
You know, I haven't got submission victory yet, but I would love to try and break his leg and get a tap out. That, or maybe break it.
In saying that, I have seen Jackson Thornhill practicing a handful of submissions, one which I've told him that I'm blatantly going to steal for myself, but that's okay because he does the switchblade lariat, so I think we've exchanged here. We've traded with wrestling currency.
I was fair and rogue.
Oh, dude, that should be a T-shirt. Not that we need any more fucking T-shirts.
You never know.
But how do you respond to Nick Martino and I guess by proxy the Wilkes Talent Factory basically saying they're gonna rock your shit and they're gonna take the belt?
I mean, people have tried. I've knocked many heads in, and I'll happily kick more jaws in.
Well, I mean, you did something that I took me a little while to do. I'll be honest. He beat me a handful of times before I got a pinfall victory over him. Tanks beat me like 4 or 5 times, and I've beaten him once, twice, if you count me making his partner at the time tap out. But you, in that scramble match with me on commentary, and, you know, Tank and I buried the hatchet. I guess he kind of understands where I was going for with the STA days, and, you know, Rex kind of walked away because he didn't like the fact that I had the spotlight, and Dozer did the same thing. And then, you can blame Reverend Diath. You can say that I have an ego, but, you know, kick Tank in the nads. It is what it is. I think it's water under the bridge. There's respect there regardless of the battles we've been through. You did something I couldn't, and you pinned Tank on what I believe was your first attempt at pinning Tank in that scramble match. I don't think you've actually been in other matches besides Rumbles together, if my memory is correct.
We may have had one.
If I'm wrong, someone will fucking correct me. But the point is, you did something that I couldn't do, and that you pinned Tank a long, long, long time before I did. So that's a big deal. You pinned Tank to become number 1 contender, and although yeah, CJ Young stuck his nose in, he did distract Jake Gibson. He didn't put his hands on Jake Gibson until after the match. I would still argue that it was still a semi-clean victory. When you hit that kiss from a rose, Martino goes, "Oh, I'm going to see it coming. Thanks for the warning." And it's like, dude, you should have already been studying. He's someone that can call himself a veteran, Nick Martino, one I'd agree with. Being a veteran, you should be studying. You should know what's coming. But if he wants to get cookie, I don't think he wants to get cocky even. I said cookie. I really want cookies now. If he wants to get cocky, I'm going to leave that in again. ADHD as fuck.
Subway cookies.
Oh, Jesus. Mrs Crossfire is going to get cancelled now. But,
oh, I didn't mean it like that. Jesus. I'm just craving Subway cookies, asshole.
White chocolate chip macadamia or raspberry cheesecake is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But, no, I'm going to leave all that in. I ain't going to fuck. But, like, Nick Martino, as a veteran, he should be studying. He should know what's coming. But if he wants to get cocky, I feel like... I think that's the 3rd or 4th time I've fucking said that now, but I feel like that kiss from a rose will come out of nowhere. He's going to expect it too much, if that makes sense.
I have more than just a kiss. Yes. There's many more in the arsenal.
Yes, and maybe that sick moonsault will actually land. Who knows?
Maybe one day. People stop moving, I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, Nick Martino, talks about seeing stuff coming. He's made no secret about the fact that he's had back injuries, which is why... his last match in ICW was that match where he injured your ankle. He had to take time off to heal that shit. He's had knee injuries, which put him into semi-retirement for a little bit there. So, I don't know, I just feel like... And Mrs Crossfire actually predicted this would happen on the go-home show that we did for Survival of the Sickest. We said Nick Martino, like, he was in this, like, almost trance if he wanted to knock Ace Shack out, and he kept saying, quote, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. Again, it's my pod. It's marked as explicit, even though we're promoting a family show. So don't be like, why are you swearing? Because I fucking can. It's my show. His exact words, I want to knock A-Shat the fuck out. But once he walked out there was a few people that cheered Nick Martino, and it was almost like, I don't want to say it was ego, but it was almost like the excitement, a flip switched in his head, and Mrs Crossfire said that she could have saw that happening, and she was right. So is the same thing going to happen here? Especially when it's ICW, which is a familiar atmosphere, unlike ECW, which was a brand new atmosphere. I feel like Nick Martino is going to be feeling more at home.
I think he does have the advantage with experience and all this.
Yes.
But at the same time, he's not seen half the things I can do. So
but again, I guess
he may know how to put something, but I'll have a new hold.
But that's what I'm saying, though. I feel like he's going to get too comfortable, and that's what Mrs Crossfire in the background just said. I feel like he's taking this too lightly. I feel like he took, and maybe because he's been around away from the ring, maybe this is his issue. He took A-Shack too seriously, so maybe he's trying to relax a little bit, but I feel like, not trying to bury the dude, because again, his credentials speak for themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's getting too comfortable here with Jackson Thornhill, and I unfortunately won't be able to be at the show because, as everyone knows, the date for my eye appointment was changed to get these stitches out, hopefully, and it's literally like 3 or 4 days later. What is math? So, just funds. I can't afford to make both. I think I'm going to be checking my phone the night of the 17th. I almost said the 23rd because that's when not 23rd, 21st because that's when so 4 days later. I almost said the 21st because that's when my appointment is. I feel like I check my phone on the 17th. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get a message saying that, you've retained and or seen the post, #end still. So I don't know. But
exactly. Time will tell.
But what's your take on, the Wilkes Talent Factory, now that they're going to be there in person and they're going to be defending the tag titles, and Timothy Wilkes could have a trick up his sleeve. What do you say to that? Because obviously Zack Stryker isn't cleared, but I feel like he's going to be able to still do a pretty good job of thwarting CJ Young and whoever else may or may not be there.
I'll admit I have nothing but love for some of the Wilkes Talent Factory. I think they're talented. I think Wilkes.
I joke all the time about it stands for what talent fam, or where's the talent, but they do. They have Arima, they have CJ Young, they've got Deadly Kev, they've got a massive group, they've got Reverend Diaz, who's a former champion in his own right, a man that you actually beat for the CPW Inter-Suburbs Championship once upon a time. But again, you lost that title to Nick Martino, so it's tit for tat. We could go either way, and I get that and I understand that, but you beat him as well. I think it was did that match end on a DQ when he hit you with the chair? I'm pretty sure, because he got frustrated because he couldn't put you away. But I don't know. I feel like both of you are capable of beating the other. I'm not going to just try and play favorites here because you're my protege. But I feel like Nick may be taking this too seriously, and that's the long or the short. I've repeated myself so many times, but I feel like I'm sure if I made a phone call to Tank or maybe even Dozer, if they needed to, just keep an eye on them just for 2 seconds to keep them at bay, that may even be able to be a thing as well. But I don't know.
I mean, we all have our issues for Wilkes, so who knows? And
I don't know if Jake Gibson's going to be there or not. I'm hoping he may show up because he's got bone to pick with him. But it is what it is. It is what it is. But what's your final thoughts on this match with Martino?
I think it's going to be an absolute slugfest. And I do believe I will have a very bruised chest, but I might kick out a tooth. I might break an arm. So,
you might walk out. You might crawl out. But I feel like my money.
I might crawl out.
My money would be on Jackson Thornhill walking out. #end still. But I guess go buy your tickets. They'll be in the link. Be 6 days by the time this goes up. But I'm just a man. I'm just a mark with a microphone. But no, I take great pride in being the manager of the ICW heavyweight champion, to be honest. And I feel like once Zack Stryker's cleared, I don't see why he couldn't be a champion in his own right. I could see you guys possibly going for the tag titles as well. Maybe Jackson Thornhill's going to be a double champ. Who knows? But
it's going
to be very, very, very exciting. But so far there's 4 matches announced. It's going to be, I know CJ Young is one half of the tag champs and Deadly Kev is injured, so I don't know. Last show the tag titles were still defended in a singles match, so I don't know if that's going to happen again or if another member of Will Talent's Factory is just going to sub out now that Tim's actually coming and saying he's going to bring other people. Lord knows who he'll bring. Maybe Rev will take that spot. I don't know, but it's going to be very interesting. We got Bo versus Apex Anderson, as I said. Hermano Salvador, who's had a bit of a attitude change of late. 2 out of 3 falls with Nick Jade. And then Rex is putting an open challenge. I don't know if the Central West title is going to be on the line as a part of that or what, but open challenge. We've got more to come. Obviously, Devious Dave, Aussie champion. I don't know what he's going to be doing. I'm sure he'll probably be on commentary running his mouth as he always does. Unfortunately, I can't be there to save people from his ramblings. I promise I don't ramble as much on commentary as I do on the pod. I actually do a pretty good job, I'd like to think, but... Any final thoughts for Nick Martino and the WTF with their plans, Jackson?
Other than the fact that maybe one day me and Zach try to come for that title? Yes.
Fair. You heard that here. Jackson Thornhill just set his sights on the tag titles. He wants to be a double champion. Maybe we could get Zach Stryker a singles title as well, and then you'll both be double champions, and that'll be double champions for Rogue.
You can have it all belt.
Rogue's clean it up.
Yeah, Rogue. I mean, look, Wilkes Talent Factory cleaned up for about 5 minutes, but is what it is. It didn't work very long, did it?
They've only got 5 minutes of talent.
Oof. Now the administrator of Rogue here in Nova Lee, and my jersey says number 1. When we get the actual Rose jerseys made, she's going to be number 0. You know why? Because 0 comes before number 1. She's the brains behind all of this. I'm just the one moving the parts, apparently. But before we wrap it up, I always end this on a non-wrestling question, as you know, from the couple that you have listened to. And I sat there and I racked my brain for probably about an hour. And you, like me, are very fucking, very wrestling-centric. And other than music, there's not really much. But the last handful of ones I've done has been, what's your favorite, band, or what's your favorite album, da-da-da-da. So for you, what is your favorite TV show? And is there any TV shows you'd recommend?
Oh, I was getting ready for band, and you threw me off.
No, that's what I said. I'm changing it now because it's I don't want to ask the same question so many times in a row. It's still kind of generic, but let's rant for another 15 minutes now and make it fucking 2 hours. Why not?
A little mini show that I've been on lately has been Hotel on Amazon.
Oh, Has Been Hotel. Yes, that's actually on my my watch list.
Bit more of a musical than I thought it'd be, but still, I enjoyed it.
Yes, I've got that on my list.
Other than that, the last TV show I watched I generally fully enjoyed was the Harley Quinn animated show on Amazon Prime, I think, as well.
Is that the newer one that has Kaylee Cuoco as the voice?
I believe so, yeah.
I haven't even watched season 1, and they're up to season 3 now, I think, aren't they? Or they've just finished season 2 and they're about to season 3? I don't know.
I saw 3 or 4, yeah.
I saw something about season 3 recently, and I was like, oh, damn, I really need to catch up.
Those are 2 shows a bit more darker, which I kind of enjoy. But it's also something where I can just sit down, zone out, and just absolutely lose my mind for over an hour.
Why not? Do you have any questions you want to ask before he finishes talking about TV shows?
No, not at the moment, no.
No, you're just going to yell out random shit at the back of the... I said this would happen. We'll get to the tail end of the episode and Mrs Crossfire will start piping up. I predicted this.
I was vibing my music.
Yeah, she's got... Oh, you took your earphones out. That's why. Okay.
Yeah, I heard something about cookies and my cookies. I hate shit.
I mean, I will buy you cookies when we go downtown for me. I gotta go downtown in 2 days as we say this. So I will legit buy you cookies while we're downtown. I will 100% do that. Well, it probably won't be Subway cookies, but we'll probably just get them from Coles or something. And this is legit gonna be on air. I'm gonna leave that in. I don't even care. Everyone will be like, it'll be
I will post on the Instagram that I did in fact.
Legit in the description I'll be like, will Mrs Crossfire get her cookies?
Find out next time.
Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. But no, I don't want to keep you for too much longer because by the time we've done this, we were talking a bit off here, I've been talking to you for about 2 hours. I do apologize. I was aiming for an hour and a half, so I've still gone over time, but wouldn't be
Honestly,
my
I was just
podcast, but
2.5 hours. I was ready for it.
like I remember when I messaged you, you were like, yeah, because like a lot of the time, being part of Rogue, I've got a big fucking mouth, so I do the talking a lot of the time for yourself and Zach Stryker. But I wanted you to tell your story, and if I'm hoping, obviously, probably won't happen before the next show, and even if it does, the episode will go out after it. But I want to get Zach Stryker on. Maybe when he's cleared and he's about to have his first match back, I'll get him on so that way we can talk about a handful of matches that he has had and how he's feeling going back to the.
And then one tag one.
But no, I definitely, once I've got, because I want to get those two separate ones out of the way, just so that, when people get familiar and you'll learn their journey, and then we can just, I'll preferably do it in person. I'll bring my my USB mics, or even if it's, actually, that could be a good idea. If I get a chance, I could bring my my entire soundboard set up with my proper free mics, like I'm using right now to record, and sit down and do one in person, possibly in Cowra for Western. I was going to say Western Warfare, but I think he's just dropped the name of that. I think it's just Emma Butler Memorial Show #2. But,
I believe.
But no, go buy your tickets for that. The description will be in the description as well. But no, definitely once I get Zach on, I almost said Jack. That's my brother's name, but Zach is my brother from another mother. Once I get Zach on, we'll definitely do this again and just basically go into more depth of marking out against international stuff, and then more into what you want to do. But I'm hoping this does good of getting your story. I'm sorry I'm all over the place. I've had a bastard of a day. Like I'll leave this into the interview just so people know, like, I'm always over the place on the interview just because of my ADHD. But it's even worse today because I was trying to like organize my laptop and my phone and stuff before I interviewed you, and I lost about 5 or 6 years worth of memories. Like all my files got corrupted, or even longer than that actually, because I've got photos of my nephew from when he was younger, and he's almost fucking 12 this year. But like, so like, I've a bunch of photos of me and Mrs Crossfire, some of my wrestling photos, which you were included in. I salvaged a couple of them, and then just photos of my nephew. Like, I don't know what happened, but something happened to my SD card, and it's just like all of these. I legitimately. So on my personal Facebook, I had a bit of a rant, and at that time, it was just over 700. It was just under 800 was the final count, because it was about 390 something. But I thought if I just transferred them to like my laptop, I'd be able to salvage more than I did. And some of them, once they were on the new device, they kind of like fixed themselves, but there was a big handful of them that didn't. So I had to then delete them off both my laptop and my phone. So I was like, for fuck's sake. I literally had to double up on deleting shit. So that was a fun time. So I was almost late to this podcast because I was just running around like a madman having a fucking meltdown. I was ready to like headbutt a wall. But then Mrs. Crossfire, I was like, Mrs. Crossfire plonked my lunch in front, because I literally made my lunch and left it sitting on the bench so my bread went dry because I was trying to like fix fucking technology. I almost forgot my sandwiches were over there. So she plonks my sandwiches in front of me. She plonked a coffee in front of me that she made. And she was just like, breathe, you have an interview. And I was just like, and now talking to you has put me into a much better mood as well. So I'm going to do the intro and the outro once we get off and start on the fucking thumbnail for tomorrow. I've actually got a good photo where the bottom of the photo is half corrupted, but our faces are still in it. So I'll just crop what's left of it. And I'm literally going to do a then and now, because obviously in the thumbnail, as we record this, you're the champ. So the thumbnail obviously has to have you as the champ. So it'll be like then versus now sort of thing.
What you do is you do me like solid and you put me on like a 6-pack body. Like just my head.
But no, I'll let you go, man. Like, I'm sorry this went a bit longer than I thought it would, but I miss talking to my homies, and that was the point of this pod. So yeah, if I can get Zach on sooner than later, hopefully we get some news about his surgery. But yeah, buy your tickets to Nothing But a Good Time. Hopefully by the time, Nothing But a Good Time rolls around, you'll have hashtag and still. But yeah, just best of luck to you. Best of luck to everyone on the card. Keep your eye out, because I'm surely, the tag title match will almost have to be announced by then, seeing as how the tag champs are kicking up a stink, and Timothy Wilkes think he's so smart by putting the Wilkes Talent Factory over the ICW logo on the posters. Ooh, we fixed it. Ooh, so clever. Ugh. It makes me sick that I'm contractually obligated to put them on the posters every now and then. Anyway. But I'll let you go, Jackson. I thank you very much for your time, and it's almost dinner time here anyway as we record this, but good luck, my friend, and I shall see you hopefully at Insane Asylum, and hopefully by that point you will be still the ICW Heavyweight Champion.
Hopefully, yeah.
All right, how fun was that? Went for way longer than we were expecting, especially considering Jackson was very nervous. He had no idea how to answer the questions and yada, yada, yada. But, I feel like, this is what happens when you have chemistry with someone. You rant for far too long, and it's kind of my fault because I get sidetracked and I try to answer a question and then it's like a side quest instead of the main story. Like, that's how I play all my video games. You got to do all the side quests before you finish the main story. You got to get all the cool shit before you finish the main boss. But... And I think that was a very good conversation. As I said multiple times in the conversation, I can't wait to get Jackson Thornhill on again. Can't wait to finally get Zach Stryker on again. Probably wait, as I said, until he is cleared and ready to get back in the ring. Just kind of hype it up a little bit for whatever this pod may or may not be worth. But yeah, very fun, very exciting. Very, very looking forward to, obviously I'll see it after the fact, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Jackson versus Nick Maltino at Nothing But a Good Time. But the whole card right now should be kind of fun. As we said, Bo Kennedy is running his mouth a little bit, facing Apex Anderson, who's going to be a newcomer to ICW. Nick's Jade Hermano looking to settle the score in a 2 out of 3 falls match. They actually just coming off the back of a street fight at Clash in the Capitol. And, of course... As we also said, Rex has an open challenge. I don't know whether that's for his Central West Championship or not, but he's got an open challenge of some sort. And Wilkes Talent Factory have, unfortunately, let us know that they are all going to be in attendance. So I'm assuming the tag titles will probably be announced sooner rather than later. And ICW Australian Champion Devious Dave will be there on commentary running his mouth. And again, remains to be seen. We'll find out, I guess, possibly even on the night if he's going to defend the ICW Australian Championship. But the song of the week this week was Nothing But a Good Time by Poison. The match of the week this week was Chris Jericho versus Will Ospreay at AEW All In 2023. And yeah, all the links are in the description. The links for Nothing But a Good Time, Mildy Kombat, and ICW Central West, of course. The first one coming up in 6 days' time, if you're listening to it the day this pod drops, in Nothing But a Good Time, which we were talking about on this pod here. But of course, Mildy Kombat March 2nd, Central West, Emma Butler Memorial Show, the second one that's happened, will be coming up October 26th. Stuttering all of my words, what is English? But all of my links are in the description. Go to the link tree for my Facebook, my Instagram, yada, 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 Pro Wrestling Tees. There's a lot of designs. There's actually a handful of new designs. I've actually got a white t-shirt up. I think it's the first white t-shirt on my pod with my split, my self-portrait, all 3 faces smushed together. It's probably my favorite design, my favorite piece of merch that I've actually got on my store so far, which is kind of vain, seeing as how I was the one that made it, but I'm really happy with how it turned out and how it looks. The new logo for the CIC pod is up there as well. Amazon wishlist there if you're so inclined. But yeah, just all the links are in the description. But without further ado, this is going to go just short of 2 hours, so let's keep it just short of 2 hours. I am the essential John L. Crossfire. You were kissed by a rose, courtesy of Jackson Thornhill, just not in the way that Nick Maltino is going to feel it at Nothing But a Good Time with that. Bam, super kick, 1, 2, 3, hashtag and still. Hopefully I don't eat my words. I am the essential John L. Crossfire, and you were just caught in conversation. As Mrs Crossfire would say, because she's not here, shaka laka laka.